Climb on.
No.
No. You aren't in charge.
You might think you're everybody's daddy in this town, but you're not mine. You don't tell me what leads to chase and how to chase them. Maybe your court-appointed attorney will get you to open up.
I don't need a lawyer.
He speaks.
When he wants to.
He may be the ultimate Giga Chad who kicked off a revolution in the action genre, but even a badass like Jack Reacher wouldn't have been able to pull off such a feat on his own. On that note, these are the top 25 flexes in the Reacher series.
No guns. We do this like men.
Fine. Like men.
It took 3 seasons for us to finally meet someone who'd make Alan Ritchson look small. The Dutch giant Olivier Richters truly lives up to his name, and he genuinely made us wonder if he could even be bested here. A few fans were actually hoping for Reacher to flip him over to the good side, but there can only be room for one muscle giant, and it's the dude after whom the show is named. The epic final battle between Reacher and Paulie was extended way beyond what we were expecting. I personally thought it was all over after Reacher almost drowned Paulie with that finishing strike. However, that monster of a human was just built different, so Reacher had to pull out his brainy flexing to eventually emerge victorious. I love how he himself admits that Paulie may be bigger and stronger than him, but he's the smarter fighter. And as per the final outcome, I'll take brains over brawn any day. Although you do need some muscles to be able to last that long against a 7'2" beast.
You shouldn't me. I'm bigger than you. I'm stronger than you.
You might be bigger and stronger, but I'm smarter.
Holy Richie, you rich. Surprised to see you out of your house, Van Gogh.
Really, guys? Come on. We're not in high school anymore.
Bullies just don't seem to learn their lessons unless they get smacked and humiliated in public by a dude at least thrice as strong as all of them put together. Richard's whole character arc in the show deals with how he's been submissive all his life, so to see him getting bullied wasn't exactly a surprise. What was rather unbelievable was the fact that his bullies actually thought that they could take on a guy as big as Alan Ritchson.
Oh, next time you see Richard, walk the other way.
You can tell that Reacher wants to look out for Richard because he could have just told the buggers to get lost, but instead he chose to violate their leader with some rather hurtful words. It wasn't even like bro was trying to use some clever innuendos like Kendrick Lamar. He just straight up called the guy stupid and ugly. But then again, it's not like Reacher needs to worry about hurting anyone's feelings. As we saw in the previous entry, this is a musclehead who was able to defeat another musclehead who was almost a foot taller than him.
So you're stupid and ugly.
Look at this youth. What's he think he's gonna do?
Guy Russo was a really likable character, and he totally felt like an apt substitute for Finlay in Season 2. I felt kind of bad that he couldn't carry on, but either way, he was a great addition to Season 2. As far as his relationship with Reacher goes, I'd say it's a lot more physical than what Finlay had. If you're wondering why, it's probably because his first proper interaction with Reacher ended up with him getting smacked right into his own car. The flex here is that Reacher didn't even bother to listen to the dude before beating the daylights out of him.
Gun!
This is a legit cop, and he got violated as if he was some kind of Boy Scout. It's even funnier when you realize that Guy's Dr. Dominic Lombardozzo also plays the savage mafia lord Chicky from Sylvester Stallone's Tulsa King. Anyway, this scene further highlighted Reacher's philosophy of punch first, ask questions later. Fear clearly doesn't seem to exist in his dictionary, as he doesn't even seem all that affected after realizing he whacked an officer of the law. I guess he and Iron Man follow the same plan regardless of the situation.
Fellas, this was his gun.
NYPD?
Name's Gaetano Russo.
Hey, don't look at me. You did all the work.
One of Reacher's most badass forms of flexing is his ability to not only sense danger, but also act on it with a detailed execution method that would put anyone to shame. Season 2 kicked right off with the man being able to realize that a poor mom's kid was being held hostage for her life savings. And yes, he made sure to give us a very satisfying solution to that situation. This isn't some kind of big fight or even a tough opponent, but it's the swift dominance on display that makes it so special. Our man calmly explained everything to the mother and then proceeded to enact justice in the most badass way possible.
This is gonna go bad for both of you.
Not a single second was wasted, right from smashing the window to dragging the culprit out and smashing his head with the door. Damn, imagine if Reacher misunderstood the whole thing and accidentally beats up the kid's dad in front of his own eyes. Yeah, that's pretty much a lifetime's worth of trauma right there. Having said that, it sure helps to have dudes with this kind of attitude in today's society.
Wait! Who are you?
Someone who prefers not getting involved.
Oh, you pick up the phone. I thought maybe you couldn't answer because you broke your hand when you drove the car through the office building.
I didn't get hurt at all.
You think this is funny?
Poor Russo. The baldy just can't catch a break, can he? He already got clobbered in the entry earlier, and now we see him getting treated like a clerk quite blatantly by Reacher. There's nothing too intense going on here in terms of action. The fans of the show are well aware of the fact that Reacher is so much more than a buff dude who beats on his enemies. His tactical mind and strategic insights help drive the plot forward, and his keen sense of sarcasm gives us tons of humor throughout. Here,
Well, maybe that's a good thing, because members of my unit are falling from the sky like raindrops, and you haven't done shit.
Hey, I want everything you got on New Age. You understand?
Fine. That's why I answered the phone this time. I actually have a reason to talk to you.
as he orders Russo to run background checks on a security roster, the poor baldy pretty much digs his own grave when he asks Reacher if he's just here to do his clerical work. Naturally, our man responds with a calm yes, and has a solid split. I think I should also mention the fact that even before this line, he was pretty much violating Russo the entire time with sarcastic lines and utter disrespect. I guess if you think about it, the dude's like Chandler Bing on steroids.
Wait, what do you think? I'm here to do your clerical work?
Yep. We're busy heading off to Boston.
What's in Boston?
The symphony.
God damn.
If you want to talk to Frenchie, you're gonna need a Ouija board.
You killed her?
Not me.
I gave her a crack to the head to get her to cooperate.
Oops.
Now, I did say right at the beginning that there are other characters in this show who have made it special, so I've got to let some of them also take the spotlight. Naturally, Paulie's not that hard to miss when it comes to commanding screen presence, and in this particular sequence, we can see the massive gap in strength between him and Reacher. Our man somewhat loses his cool after realizing he won't be able to rizz up the French maid anymore because of the Dutch giant's immeasurable power.
Do something about it.
Few words of condescension were never going to do the trick, and Reacher took the bait when Paulie taunted him to strike. What followed was a total Uno reverse, as we see Reacher getting a taste of his own medicine. Not only did his punch not do anything to Paulie, he got smacked down with a single blow from the monstrous beast. To be able to do that to the main character of the show is a flex and a half, but I'll also say that considering Paulie's size, none of us should be surprised that he was able to do this.
Hey, Punch and Judy, we got work to do. Move your ass.
Let me guess. Government plates, government suits, government rides. Surprised it took Senator Lavoie this long to figure out who sweated his flunky last night.
Reacher could be looked at as a man with a god complex, considering how easily he's able to solve most of his predicaments throughout the series. His mannerisms and patronizing tone also back up that claim, but then again, he saves lives and stuff, so he can't be all that narcissistic, right? If there's one person who will disagree with that logic, it's Hart, who was sent by Senator Lavoie to get Reacher. There's so much about this scene that I enjoy, especially Reacher's trademark no when Hart tells him to get in the vehicle.
Get in. No,
Why not, Mr. Reacher?
just Reacher.
Fine. Reacher. Why won't you get in the car?
Because he didn't ask nicely.
Okay.
Bro wasn't doing it without reason either. He actually explained why he refused to do so, because of Hart not asking him nicely. This isn't a man who's uncooperative. This is a troll who wants to push everyone's buttons before he does as they ask. I mean, he got Hart to say please and also close the door after he sat in the vehicle. Bonus flex points to the man for being able to do all of this without using any of his physical strength.
Hart. What's a magic word?
please get in the vehicle?
If there's a character who'd be the second fan favourite from this show, it has to be Neagley. She's a certified badass who played the side character so well that she's probably the only other name casual fans of the show would remember apart from the main man. Neagley has shown off her skills on multiple occasions, and I'm going to cover some of them today, starting with how she turns the tables against her attackers sent by Quinn. What's truly impressive about this sequence is that Neagley wasn't expecting these guys to come for her at all, and she still managed to take the both of them down with minimum effort. I love how she ended up chatting with the second dude right till his dying breath. It's a show of sheer dominance. It was almost as if by being in front of them, she was subtly telling the guy that she was way out of his league as a hunting target. That's probably because she herself is one of the finest hunters there is in the Reacherverse.
Please call 911.
You assume that's the information I need, Langston? But in an investigation, assumptions kill. No!
One of Reacher's main taglines is, in an investigation, assumptions kill. He's used it time and time again, but I don't think the line has had a stronger impact than when he threw Shane Langston off a freaking chopper. This is right after the man does some pretty incredible stuff, such as taking blows from an opponent while holding onto a stretcher with Dixon at the same time.
You just don't know when to quit!
However, I like how the writers chose to make the main villain die this way, because honestly, it wouldn't have made that much of an impact if Reacher just smashed his skull in. This is an old dude who probably would have put up a better fight if he was a murderous robot sent from the future to kill John Connor. However, those days are well behind him, so killing him in the same way he killed Reacher's buddy Franz. You could say it's a form of poetic justice, and the reason it's a flex is because of how nonchalant Reacher is, even after doing a lot of excessive stunts right before this moment.
Wait! Ah! No! You can still stop the missiles from getting in the hands of a terrorist!
باشه بذار اول این حیله رو پیاده کنم باید ببینیش کل سندل رقب گرفته.
We know that Reacher can speak multiple languages, but I found this particular scene with the Farsi cab driver pretty hilarious. The dude probably thought he could joke about with his buddy on how his passenger's nothing more than a giant meathead, but he clearly didn't know much better, so Reacher had to give him some education. Plus, the main point of him choosing to talk in Farsi was to let the cab driver know that he wasn't going back to the airport anytime soon. It's a rather dominating way of telling an inferior man that he's just going to do as he's told, like a good little boy. But then again, even the driver knew there wasn't much he could do to protest. I mean, he literally talks about how Reacher is big enough to take up the entire rear seat. More importantly, Regent was basically telling the cabbie that he shouldn't get too comfortable around him. I suppose this is what he meant by the whole assumptions can kill thing in the previous entry. I really want to have a similar moment too. Pulling it off would easily bamboozle anybody.
Yes, sir.
Up ahead on the left.
Okay.
Come here, we want to talk to you.
No, you don't.
No, you don't. Hey, come here. We just want to talk to you. Heard you got arrested for murder.
Reacher has done and said some pretty ridiculous things, including predicting how a whole encounter goes down with some stupid kids. You could even say that he's a clairvoyant when it comes to predicting the outcomes of his own battles. It's straight up Sigma energy on display here, as Reacher describes with great detail how all his teenage attackers are going to wind up, with one exception surviving to drive him to the hospital.
No. I'm just going to break the hands of 3 drunk kids.
There's 4 of us here.
One of you's got to drive to the hospital.
Ooh.
Remember, this is only the 2nd episode of the very first season, so the audience didn't really know whether bro was messing around or whether he'd actually beat up a bunch of kids. Turns out, he doesn't discriminate at all, and everything turned out exactly as he'd anticipated. I wonder if he'd be able to predict the outcomes of other fights too. He'd make a fortune on boxing and MMA matches.
I know where the hospital is.
Mailbox explodes, there's burning paper, metal going everywhere, right? 6 months later, we're at the gas and such, and there's old man Slattery. He's getting arrested in the parking lot. Bench warrant for not showing up for jury duty.
KJ really is a hateful villain, and despite having a limited appearance, he does manage to get on our nerves enough for us to want Reacher to get his revenge with utmost brutality. While he does achieve that, there's no point in wanting to dominate your target without humiliating him in public first. That's exactly what Reacher does when he meets KJ at the restaurant and starts to mock him for everything he is. The punk actually thought he could get away by acting like some big shot.
God, Jesus.
But he ended up getting emasculated by a man much more superior to him. That's right, Reacher even asked him what kind of man he was, only to break down his character in ways even a shrink could never achieve. And yes, our man clearly can't flex too much without having to whack his opponents, so we get some gratuitous violence too, although I wouldn't say it was completely unnecessary.
This ain't over.
Anytime you want to dance.
Since the moment this man arrived at Margrave, there's been nothing but violence.
Okay, so we gotta break Franzi down like we profile a perp.
Passwords come from deep down. What was Franzi's thing? What was he known for?
This one's more of an involuntary flex, but it does go on to prove how much of an impact Reacher makes, not just on the people he saves, but also on the people he works with. Franz may have met an unfortunate end right at the start of the season, but at least we got to see how much he admired Reacher later. In this particular sequence involving the main man O'Donnell and Neagley, the audience learns that Franz was so inspired by Reacher that he literally kept his name as the password to stop the timer on his laptop conking off.
I'm following you around? You wanted to be here, Reacher.
Better punch up, we're running out of time.
You could almost see the pain in Reacher's eyes when he realised how much Franz did look up to him. Yeah, it may also have been a flex, but Reacher definitely felt like he didn't deserve it. Also, when Neagley said that Franz wanted to be Reacher, I think it's safe to say that every aspiring Giga Chad out there could relate to her statement.
Don't go getting a big head.
Federal agents, open up.
Season 3 gave us some nice, likeable characters, even though I'm pretty sure we'll never see or hear from them again. One particular lady stood out, and that's Agent Duffy, who, as we all know, got involved with Reacher way beyond the confines of solving a case. However, their first interaction didn't really go down that well, at least for her and Agent Villainous. Our man's in no mood for a chat with federal agents, so he jokingly talks about coming to a dingy hotel just so that he could try out the lobster in the area.
Is that why you gave no address?
No,
Then why no address?
because I don't have one.
What are you doing in Maine?
I wanted good lobster.
We're being serious.
So am I.
Well, I am a seafood aficionado myself, but I don't know if I'd go to such extremes just to try out one particular dish. Anyway, Reacher serves another flex over both agents by saying he feels this conversation is a complete waste of his time. I've got to say, to be able to speak with such disdain in front of the law has got to increase your aura by at least 50 points.
So what can I do for you, Reacher?
Check hospital records around Linton, Virginia. On or just after March 13th, 2012.
What are we looking for?
An Asian American man in his 40s, brought in with injuries consistent with a small caliber gunshot. Finger off the trigger. Aim me the rifle with your left hand by the barrel, butt down, muzzle up. Turn to your left.
What the hell do you think you're doing?
Getting the drop on some kind.
I've already spoken about how Reacher's strengths extend beyond his physical frame, and this is something that we see a lot in Season 3. Right from infiltrating Beck's residence to eventually defeating Paulie, a man was able to show off his big brain energy with a lot more flair than usual. One particular instance was when he managed to manipulate Duke into sabotaging himself by convincing him to walk right into his trap. The pain in itself was pretty neat, but Reacher knew he had to be convincing for it to pay off. It was a smart move to use the $10,000 reward as extra motivation for him to step into the empty house, and his reasoning was spot on. Heck, I'd have believed him if I was in Duke's position too. Yeah, I bet Reacher felt really satisfied after taking out Duke all on his own, because, to be honest with you, I found that character really annoying. Bro had more attitude than a TikTok influencer.
Where's Duke? Dead.
My wife should be here soon.
I don't give a...
Reacher may have real skills way beyond our comprehension, but he does respect the sanctity of marriage, although it's not the way you might be thinking. In the very first episode, we see Reacher and Paul making it out of prison after having conducted their little survey there. Now, somebody like Paul isn't exactly the bravest man on the planet, and he relies on the simple luxuries of life, such as having his wife come pick him up. He informs Reacher about this, probably to, offer the guy a ride home or whatever. Reacher's response, though, was so freaking hilarious that it was way too good for me to not include in my top 10. Like, we just saw this guy beat down multiple prisoners without much of a fuss, and even then, that line of his was completely unexpected. Yeah, this is exactly how you pull off a pilot episode.
You should eat. You look like hell.
That's because I saw you gouge a man's eyes out.
You started it.
You're not supposed to be drinking in uniform.
We're not drinking. We were drinking. Then you interrupted us.
She doesn't belong here.
When you're facing off against a man like Jack Reacher, you need to understand that mathematical thinking isn't going to work for you from a logical standpoint. Case in point, this complete jerk who wanted to pull rank on Neagley and ordered her to leave the officers' club. Like, what on earth was his problem? Just let a woman enjoy her drink. But then again, he allowed Reacher to give us all some really solid lines.
I'm also a man with a rule. People leave me and my pals alone. I leave them alone. They don't. I don't.
Whether it was listening to his mom regarding giving fools like him a chance, or even talking about how 12 versus 9 is a disadvantage to the team with 12, Reacher just has his way of calmly looking the most badass dude in the room. Seeing that jerk fly out of the window, after which Reacher walks up to him and punches him repeatedly, was pretty satisfying to watch. It's also the bold dudes who end up making a fool of themselves, eh? Sorry, Russo, that wasn't another personal attack on you.
I'm providing you an opening. Because I promised my mother I'd give dumb guys like you a chance to walk away.
We got 12.
I'm very sorry for what happened. I have no excuse for my actions. I hope you can forgive me, though I understand if you can't.
I just spoke about how Reacher likes to listen to his mom's advice, but that wasn't always the case. Here we learn where the iconic no started, as Reacher is told to apologize to the bully he smacked out of rage. However, much against his mom's wishes, the boy refuses to do so, even after looking at how badly he bruised the bully.
No.
You've had nothing but run-ins with Curtis since we arrived. Apologize.
No.
And damn, the line about being sorry that he didn't bruise both sides of his face was equally super cold. I do admit that this scene could have been better from a writing perspective, because Reacher could have also exposed the bully for his actions, but I guess the parents wouldn't have believed him either way, so it was just better to flex like a total boss and make your way out.
I'm sorry, the left side of his face doesn't look like the right.
Just wait till they're over the river. That's that ridge.
Copy that.
Neagley manages to make it to the list yet again, and this time she's doing something that may not have pleased anyone from the first Predator movie, save for maybe the Predator himself. She made light work of the chopper with a literal bazooka, and the visuals of the scene totally impressed me. I wasn't expecting to see this, especially after witnessing a pretty cool rescue act from Reacher himself, but I have to admit that Neagley's flex here totally had more of an impact. I know Reacher was instructing her and stuff, but she's still the one who pulled it off, so she gets credit. Intentionally missing the chopper only for it to get destroyed right after was a baller move. But I gotta say, the team was pretty ruthless for making those dudes think they could actually escape with their lives intact.
Wait for it.
You might think you're everybody's daddy in this town, but you're not mine. You don't tell me what leads to chase and how to chase them.
Finlay may not be much of a macho man in front of Jack Reacher, but he did get his moment to shine here. For a man who doesn't like to curse, he sure let himself loose here when he threatened Kleiner over talking to his cops. Like, damn, bro dropped 3 F-bombs in one freaking sentence. That's definitely an upgrade from what Finlay was being portrayed as earlier. Just look at Reacher's face too. He's so proud of the guy for finally entering the flex zone.
If you keep talking to the cops on my force, hinder this investigation in any way, I will put my foot up your ass until your heart fucking stops.
Overall, this scene works really well in terms of building camaraderie between Reacher and Finlay, because they've mostly been shown as a contrasting force up until this scene. But hey, I'm proud of Finlay too. Nobody should take that kind of respect from a dude whose name rhymes with clowner. Yeah, Reacher needs to go on for at least 20 seasons before I get sick of it.
You know, cursing is a sign of weak mind and weaker character.
Shut up. I'll be asking you some questions. I was informed you were read your rights, so you know you don't have to answer.
We just covered Finlay taking the lead over Reacher, so now let's get back to covering the big boss of the show. This is a sequence that sets the right tone for Reacher as a character. Even though Finlay doesn't explicitly say it, I'm sure he would have thought of our MC as a Dumbo, considering how big and strong he is.
Okay then, well, I'm not about to waste the rest of my afternoon. Maybe your court-appointed attorney will get you to open up.
I don't need a lawyer.
He speaks.
When he wants to.
Well, that's where Reacher's uniqueness comes into play. And we see that the moment he confidently tells Finlay he doesn't need a lawyer. Hearing a statement like that makes you wonder just how badass a man can be. And then Reacher further cements his dominance when he tells Finlay he only speaks when he wants to. It's a nice way to properly introduce the character's idiosyncratic behavior and also sets the tone for the rest of the season, especially the relationship dynamic between these two.
Scrap of paper with the word pluribus written on it. Want to clear that up too before you let you go. You know anything about that?
It means I'm gonna be here for a while.
Speaking of, I've never been so jealous of a fork in my life. You like cream? I know where you can get some more.
Normally, when you hire a translator, you expect verbal translations, right? Well, when it comes to Reacher, not only can you not afford him, but you also have to be prepared for some very painful physical translations too. Quinn's men figured that out the hard way when they tried to be creepy with the French maid Annette. Bro made sure to translate her French but not to excuse it, and then he gave the baldy a taste of what Annette would have wanted to do to him.
What'd she say?
She said the cream came from your mother. Probably because she's a big fat cow.
You know, I really aspire to be strong enough to casually knock down a bodyguard with one hand while drinking coffee with the other. Shout out to the diabetic dude too, because his line was easily one of the funniest things I've ever heard on this show.
You have any thoughts on dessert?
No, man. I got diabetes. Come with me.
No.
Excuse me?
Not until you let these zip ties come off. We both know I didn't kill anybody and they're uncomfortable.
Come on, I don't care if I show this scene a million times, it's still gonna find its way into tons of my lists. I mean, this is after all the most realistic depiction of what Superman can do from a normal human's perspective. Yes, I know that Reacher is way above what the normal man is capable of, but still, to see him break free of those puny zip ties was so badass.
Get the box cutter.
It's okay. I got it.
Bro could have done this at any time he would have liked, but chose to wait until he got the go-ahead from the law. That's actually pretty respectful if you ask me. But then again, I suspect the Reacher just wanted to do this in front of an audience so that he could farm aura. I'm not complaining though, it's a classic moment.
You guys recycle?
Clement?
No.
No. You weren't in charge.
We've seen the iconic Reacher no a couple of times already in this video, and while there are lots of other examples, none of them can beat the one where he refuses to comply with the enemy even though he's clearly outnumbered and also restricted by handcuffs. All he needs is timing and a trigger, which in this case is, you guessed it, another bald dude. Well, to be fair, he does have some hair, but he's baldish, so it still counts, okay? Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that you've got to have surpassed all the tiers of alpha male charisma to be able to pull off what Reacher does here. Yes, he gets stopped because he cares for his friends, but not before beating down highly trained guards at perhaps not even 20% of his strength and skills.
We got him right where we want him, boss.
Now, there's just one more thing I want from you.
Yes, this is the #1 entry and will continue to be so in every Reacher video I do, because it's this very scene that shows us what the series is going to be about. I'm not even counting the fact that he took down a pretty tough looking inmate in 5 seconds. My focus is on what he says before it. Normally, you'd never get to see this kind of trash talk in a show released in 2022, but Reacher doesn't care about political correctness, and I suppose that's where he found his audience for the show.
What you want? To give you a choice. See, you're in my house, Fatso, and you didn't ask permission. So you and your friends can leave now, or they can carry your fat out in a bucket.
I'm not trying to be hurtful or anything, but that inmate definitely deserved what was handed to him. So yeah, this is what kickstarted Peak Sigma.
You owe us a pair of glasses.